nobody wants to pay for Kamala's government takeover of the economy. Is that how I look at it? Joining me now, Texas Congressman and Budget Committee Chair Jodey Arrington, Florida Congressman, and I think Ways and Means member Greg Steube. So, Jodey, who's going to pay for all this? Not that we want it, but if we get it, it's going to cost. I mean, we were just talking at the first segment of the show with Malpass and Faulkner. You know, this thing's going to break through $2 trillion. I mean, she's not putting any numbers on it, but it goes on and on and on, and tax credits and this and that. Not to speak of the fact that it has price controls. What a wonderful thing. So how do you read this, Jodey Arrington?
Well, let's put the first price tag on the working families in this country who will pay higher prices because of your last point, price controls and subsidies, which will only exacerbate an already sticky high price situation that has prevented the Federal Reserve from lowering interest rates. So that's one. And then you'll have this massive, because it will be trillions of dollars. It will be more than the largest spending bill ever, which was the partisan jam job called the, quote, American Rescue Plan, which, as you know, and your viewers know, was just a blue state bailout and a bunch of money for progressive pet projects. It really wasn't. It was a guise under the guise of COVID relief, but it will be a deferred tax on our children. We're already borrowing as a result of this administration's unbridled spending. $6 billion a day, and we have a $35 trillion debt. The interest has tripled, and we're now the gap every year of what we borrow versus what we spend is $2 trillion. This is a disaster on so many levels, but people are going to pay that, working hard people in America and our children.
Hang on a second. Greg Steube, I want you to just hear some sound from Donald Trump yesterday in Bedminster. Hang on a sec. Here it comes.
Their Inflation Reduction Act, by the way, was a disaster. It's what caused the inflation. We're going to terminate the Green New Scam and rescind all unspent funds. We want to stop wasteful spending and big government special interest giveaways.
Now, there's a line in there. I don't know if people caught it, but he said, we're going to rescind unspent funds. And there's a lot of stuff in the papers, Greg, that's, you know, all these big bills that Chairman Arrington was talking about a few moments ago. The money hasn't been spent for one reason or another. A lot of times they have these DEI requirements and they couldn't spend it on that, or a lot of there was no permitting reform, so you couldn't build and construct a lot of stuff. I'm going to just guess, Greg, you could have $1 trillion of rescissions, right, which means the money is pulled back out. If it's unspent, it's pulled back out, has to go through the House and Senate. I understand that. But I think that's one of Mr. Trump's strategies. I think he let loose on that. I'm not sure people picked up on it. What do you think?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. President Trump's absolutely right. We need to get this country back on track. And there's probably, just like you said, it may be $1 trillion sitting out there. I mean, I bet there's still COVID-era programs in local governments and in states that could be clawed back. And President Trump, with his leadership on the economic front, we've got to get out of this disastrous economic policy. Price controls that Kamala Harris talked about today are the type of things you see in Venezuela, in China, in Russia, and North Korea, not in the United States. Would send us backwards and is not the direction that we need to be going. President Trump will put us on the economic footing in the direction we need to be going.
But I just want to stay on this point, Chairman Arrington, Chairman Jodey, because rescission and impoundment authority. Mr. Trump, I mean, he ran much tighter budgets than he ever got credit for. I mean, the Wall Street Journal actually said Biden's deficits were twice what Trump's deficits are. And that's the first time I've seen anybody acknowledge that Trump was tougher than you think. But leaving that aside, he does want to cut spending. I know that, okay, talking to him. It's putting in his speeches. Rescission authority and impoundment authority, Jodey Arrington. What do you think?
Well, I think that's going to be top of the agenda for reining in wasteful spending. We know there was a tremendous amount, probably well over $200 billion in just unemployment insurance alone and improper payments. So I think that's the right place to start. Rescind the monies that are unspent from, quote, COVID relief, and not even a quarter of every dollar out of that American Rescue Plan actually went to relief.
Yep.
And then I'd work through the entire balance sheet and budget of the federal government because it's riddled with waste and unnecessary spending.
Absolutely.
And that's a big part of the problem is overstimulation of demand while taxing, regulating, mandating, price controlling on the supply side, which has created this chasm and this imbalance in supply and demand, which is why we have a cost of living crisis. So he's got to work on both ends, and nobody knows how to get an economy running like President Trump.
Yes.